All right, it's time now for Backstory, where we look inside the pasts of our politicians and at the people and moments that shape their lives. This week, overcoming personal tragedy. She was due to have a baby with a high school sweetheart when her partner died in an accident. It's Nicole McKee's unlikely road from single mum to gun lady and on to Parliament.
So my life here started in Lower Hutt, and we lived in a place called Harold Grove in Stokes Valley, and every house had kids in it, and we all played together. And I remember those as being the most happiest times of my life. My sister and I are the only two with my mother. My mum kicked my dad out when we were quite young. My father wasn't the very best behaved person and wasn't the best for our family. So my mother decided it was time that we moved on as a family, and she gave us every opportunity she possibly could, while our father actually just stepped out of the scene and didn't support us in any way at all. So my mum worked 2 jobs to put my sister and I both through private education, and mum also worked hard to put a roof over our heads. My mum's a little short Pākehā woman as well, and she got a lot of adversity for having 2 Māori kids and being a single mum in the 70s. It wasn't done. My mother had said to my sister and I, we had to work twice as hard as everybody else because we were female and because we were Māori. We had to prove to everybody else that we were worthy of whatever our contribution was going to be. So stick up for others, stick up for yourselves, and don't be afraid. You know, I'd bring my peers home that had run away, and mum would come home at 2 o'clock in the morning from her second job and, as she put it, trip over bodies in the lounge. But she said as long as everybody was safe, she didn't care how many people I brought home, as long as they had a roof over their heads. And I was hanging around with some, you know, not so well behaved people. We were probably some of those teenage kids that caused a lot of havoc around Nainai and Taira in the and Wingate area in the mid-80s. And I think it would be best if I just leave it at that. When I was 14, I moved from Lower Hutt and went to Rotorua, finishing off my college education at Rotorua Girls High. Went straight from school into a law firm, learned a fair bit about that, and then came back here to Wellington when I was in my early 20s. So I went through a phase where I thought I'd grow some dreadlocks, and what was kind of funny about it is I was working in the law firm. I remember my mother saying to me, "You're going to have to cut your hair. You will never get a job in Wellington with dreadlocks working in the law firm." And I thought, watch me. So I did get a job working in the law firm on the terrace, but when I cut them when my life changed. So when my partner passed away and my child was born, I brought my childhood sweetheart, I call him, from Rotorua back down to Wellington. Yeah, I met Kane when I was 15. We had our first child when I was 24, but unfortunately Kane passed away a week before she was born from a car accident. So it was one of the hardest weeks of my life. I'd gone from thinking I was about to start a family with the love of my life to all of a sudden I'm a solo mother, or about to be a solo mother. So within a week I'd lost him, taken him to Napier to bury him, came back to Wellington, went into labour, had a 48-hour labour because my daughter was breech as well. And I was absolutely determined I was going to give birth to her. So I frequently look back and think, you know, when anyone says, I've had a really bad week, I always go back to what happened to me 25 years ago and think, actually, I know what a bad week is really about. So we just got to take all the good things in life and keep moving forward. Otherwise, we can get into a rut. I thought I actually need to shed and start again. So I cut all of my hair off and I buried my hair with the cigars that her father was going to smoke when she was born, and with her placenta, and I planted a tree at my sister's house. And it was 3 years on when I met my current husband now. So I met him at a party in town, and well, the rest is history. We went on and had 3 children in 2 years, 7 months. We got married after I had the 3 children. I really enjoyed having the babies, but when I got married, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't pregnant. So 2004, we actually tied the knot. And that's how I actually got into rifle shooting, was because I couldn't play netball anymore because I was pregnant all the time, but I could shoot. And the family atmosphere here is so good and so encompassing that I really, really enjoyed it. This is the Wellington Service Rifle Anzac Day Memorial Trophy. I've been lucky enough to win it 3 times. I won it last year. My first shoot was a 50 with 8 at 500 yards with a 303. I was really, really wrapped with that. This competitive side of it, I'd never experienced, and I just loved it. I really got into it. But the hunting side became a necessity, and that's because my husband is quite a lot older than me. He's 18 years older than me. He was a builder. He didn't want to continue building at that age. So he decided to go back and do his law degree. When he studied, we couldn't afford meat. So I grabbed the rifle and I would go over to the Wairarapa or up to Wanganui and I'd hunt, do a weekend hunt. And we fed our family meat that way for 5 years during his 10-year study period, and just absolutely loved it. So that's how I got into hunting, was out of necessity. The only way to put meat on the table was to do that. Here is the Ballinger Belt, which is regarded as New Zealand's oldest sporting trophy. This is a national icon. I guess I came known throughout New Zealand as the gun lady because I stood up and spoke on behalf of firearm owners. But I was just trying to bring a rational voice, because we are a combination of New Zealand's community. You know, I've never put myself way out there like that, and I did find it quite hard, especially with some of the personal attacks that occurred. But I thought, as my mother had always said, Nicole, you're female and you're Māori, you've got to stand up for those that can't speak for themselves. But I was really scared. I was scared about where this would go, what it would mean. Would my children be affected by me standing up? Because I was already getting some personal attacks. You get death threats, right? To be honest with you, I wondered whether I'd be up to it. I don't have a university education or background. My life is very varied. Now I'm in it. I've been in it for 18 months. I've learned a lot. I feel like I am up for the job, and at least at the end of the day, if I can say I tried to do my best, Mum's going to be proud, but hopefully so are my family and the rest of the country.